I think probably maybe the best approach would just be to kind of get into it, right? Like, I mean, what I want to know is, who are you? What are you working on? What's your background? It's
Okay.
what I want to know, and I feel like that's what anybody else in the ecosystem is going to want to know too. So, is it okay if we start there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name's Carl. My last name Padavano, a real person, just like everybody else here. Um, I have a 4-year college degree in business administration and finance. Very analytical type of individual. I'm a problem solver, and I really like to think outside of the box to find creative solutions. For anything that I try to tackle or approach. Um, I got into crypto back in 2017 when a lot of people also probably got in. Um, I thought it was kind of silly to keep buying all this crypto, Ethereum, Bitcoin. So I got into mining actually, and been mining ever since then. It's been very lucrative. I've had a lot of success with it. Um, I did partner with a couple people, because I'm not like super technical. I'm really better with the numbers and financial aspects and projections. So I used the resources that I had and the people that knew how to build these machines and put the equipment together. Um, I'm pretty heavily invested in real estate. I like to flip properties. I've flipped over 5 properties over the last few years. Um, and I really like to, dive into things that I may not be ready to do, but I learn best from doing, honestly. So I want to go after it, and I'm going to go after it with a full head of steam, and I'm going to tackle it the best I can. When I get stuck on something, I'm not afraid to ask questions, and I'm not afraid to ask for help, which I do feel a lot of people, they kind of get stuck at that point and they find themselves at a standstill. And I really hate to be at a standstill. I learned that if you're not moving forward, you're going backwards. So I really like to kind of keep pushing forward as best as I can. Um, right now,
Well,
good.
yeah, I was just going to chime in that I think you what you really highlighted is really what every entrepreneur needs, and I feel like we actually need more of that within the Koinos ecosystem. Um, it certainly describes kind of my mentality and my history too. Um, Part of the reason why I got involved in crypto and took the path that I took, I don't think a lot of people know this, is that I'm non-technical like you. And the best way, the way that I like to learn is by getting my hands dirty, surrounding myself with the smartest people that I can find who are experts in that field and learning directly from them. And so in 2016, now granted, I've been in crypto a lot longer, but 2017 at this point, you're basically like an OG. You, uh, you certainly have gained the cyclical knowledge
Mhm.
that I think is really important for surviving in this industry, which is the hard part, right? Is the surviving. Um, but yeah, in 2016, I was like, well, I want to be in blockchain. This would be the dream space for me. So these Steemit guys, they're building a social network on the blockchain. I'm going to go learn from them. And then when I got there, what I saw was that it was really the people who were building the blockchain, the people who I now co-founded Koinos Group with, who built Koinos. They were the real secret sauce. And so I was like, oh, I got to learn what these guys know. I got to
Mhm.
be around these guys more. And yeah, I especially liked hearing the, you have to be, it's the people who aren't prepared to fail or be ignorant, or learn that they were wrong, who ultimately give up. Because when they fail and when they're proven to be ignorant, they crumble. If you
Mhm.
know you're ignorant, if you know that you're imperfect and you're not going to do everything right, you you can survive. Again, you survive the the uh, the bottoms, so that you can persevere towards the bull markets or whatever. Um, So yeah, I think that's what you said is a really important lesson for the Koinos community, because Koinos, like I've said a million times, Koinos is for builders. It's really designed from the ground up to reward people who create value. It's not designed for people who just want to skate by. Like, it doesn't work that way. It's all about supporting grassroots initiatives as opposed to establishing massive treasuries that go to centralized organizations that then we hope do something good with it. Right. Yeah. So I loved hearing all of that. And I just wanted to hang on it a little bit, because I think a lot of people in the space, they want a big company to adopt your blockchain. Oh, when is the enterprise? When is Citibank going to use your blockchain? And that's not who we built it for. Right? We built it for people who we built it for individuals, for small teams who want to leverage technology to disrupt Citibank. So what, if we, right? So people like you, in my mind, are exactly who we need to be servicing better, supporting better, welcoming, and working with. So yeah, I really just wanted to linger on what you said there, because I think it's great. We have developers, we have engineers. That's great. They're critical. But I think part of the limiters on our growth is that if you just have technical people without entrepreneurs, you're not sufficiently well-rounded. Like, you need the entrepreneurs to come in and be like, you guys are building all this cool stuff. Here's how I think we can make money off of it. And I know we don't do this. I know we've never done this before. We've never gone into this business, but somebody's got to do it. There's this opportunity here. Let's take it. You got to be look, you got to be correct me if you disagree, but I certainly know that my co-founders at Koinos Group will agree on this point, that you have to be a little bit crazy to start your own business.
Yeah.
It's really hard. It's really hard. It's really stressful. It is so hard. So you got to be a little bit crazy. It's about walking that line, and I think you perfectly described kind of how you do it, how you walk that line.
You have to be willing to mess up. You have to be willing to fail, but having that drive to get back up and, face that challenge again and maybe approach it a little bit different, or, use the team that you have and say, hey, I'm really stumbling on this. Let's have a brainstorming session and talk through this and see if we can find a better solution that's really going to help us get to the next step and to the next step after that. And that's really what I want to really leverage with the Koinos community. I don't want to do this by myself. I have two other partners that I'm working on everything with. They're fully immersed in full-time jobs, and they're very distracted, but they are great resources, and they provide me with great opportunities to brainstorm together, and we have calls every week. But that's only 3 people. Imagine if we could leverage an entire ecosystem that can focus their energy and their ideas into how we can improve the entire blockchain itself and the whole entire ecosystem. And maybe we're missing one small thing, or maybe we're missing, 50, 60 large pieces that just we have to climb that small ladder to get to. But I'm really excited about what you guys have built. I am so tired of paying all these network fees to do anything really. And you have created a very simple entry for pretty much anybody that wants to immerse themselves into blockchain and crypto that might be a little nervous at first. And you don't really have to have a lot of startup capital to play around and learn. And it reduces the risk of, say, hey, I only have $100. I can maybe do one transaction on Ethereum and hope that it does something. With Koinos, you can do thousands of transactions, and maybe you mess up, maybe you make a really great decision on one of them, but you guys did really build something incredible, and I think you guys are going to hit mass adoption with this, and I'm very excited to see how things escalate.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm so glad you feel that way. Yeah, something you said reminded me of something I read from my friend Kui, who's behind Koinos Social, that I hadn't really thought about it this way, but I had experienced it, where what he talks about is getting the reps in. And I think people really underestimate, like when I would do transactions on other blockchains, I would always like break out in a sweat, because it's not something you do a lot. It's something that costs you a lot of money, and so it's like you got to really, really focus on this. You do the test transaction, whatever. But with Koinos, and granted, we haven't really gotten to see this yet, but I remember it with Steam, and in the usage that I've had of Koinos thus far, you kind of see it where it's like, because the stakes are so low when you perform a transaction, you do more. You can do more. You're not overthinking it. And I think that's going back to mass adoption. I think that comfort level that people are going to get from the ability to do the reps is really going to be a big deal. But let's get back to you and what you're doing. I think so I had a couple of questions in my mind. First is I wanted to hear more about it. It sounds like you've basically had a successful mining business already. Do you still mine other things? And now you're looking to add a new mining revenue source in there. And then the other thing, and then maybe from there you could go into what you are looking to do with CAS. What piqued my interest there, obviously CASPA is interesting, and we have a good relationship with that community. But with Koinos, well, there's so many interesting things about this thing that I think you're working on. First of all, it sounded to me like what you're trying to do is build a DAO, is to leverage Koinos to create a DAO, to bring a big group of people together to work on this common issue and participate in the upside. We think that this is a killer use case for Koinos, is DAOs, because of the authority system and how you can layer governance on top of smart contracts and things like that. But also, so connecting CAS and Coin in a kind of indirect way is interesting, but also kind of bringing in proof of work mining into Koinos. That's also kind of interesting, right? Because I've always felt like, there's a part of me that's like, oh, we're almost kind of missing out on something because we don't have proof of work, because we have this efficient algorithm and Koinos is designed in this particular way. And there's something just inherently kind of compelling about proof of work. And I like how focused CASPA is around maintaining proof of work and really optimizing proof of work. And so the idea that we could kind of combine these two worlds in a way that helps both, that's also really interesting to me. So sorry, that went on a bit long, but I'm curious to hear more about your previous or existing mining businesses, and then what you're looking to do now.
So our main focus when we've been mining has been, we use graphic cards, GPU graphic cards for our setup. And they're dated. They're from 2017, so they're 10,000, 2000 series of these GPU graphic cards. Back at the end of 2022, I had sold my property where I had a little mini data center that I had built, and it was very efficient. Everything was running inside the data center, but I got a really great offer. The real estate market was hot, and I decided to sell everything that I had. So I figured, give myself a fresh start. And I partnered with a couple people, and we acquired 95 acres of land. And over the last few months, I've been building up a new data center so that I could start up another setup, another mining rig setup. And I came across a project called Block Tools and Ghost Dag. Saw that they were mining Caspa. I watched them. I followed them. I don't particularly love every decision that the teams have been making, but I love the profitability and that I can actually follow and their proof of work and seeing how they've been successful in expanding their setup. I think they're up to like almost 100 rigs, mining rigs for Caspa that they've acquired, and I think they have 60 of them running right now. So you can actually go on and check them out and see that they're actually having a lot of success. And I kind of want to imitate that in a way. I don't want to get to the scale that they're trying to get to. It's just a lot to have in one basket, and I do have a lot of land now that I can leverage some of the real world asset resources that are in play. I've had a lot of success with mining. We've mined Ethereum, Ravencoin, and Ethereum Classic as the main coins that we've mined. And everybody knows Ethereum switched over to the proof of stake, so I kind of fell off. And with the dated equipment, it was okay to let that go. And I always knew that there was going to be more and better equipment that came out. So last year I saw these Ice River Caspa mining machines, and I need to get them now. But I only have enough money to get so many. And when you can leverage other people's money and resources, you can really expand it a lot faster, and utilize those resources to ramp things up faster. So at this point, we have the data center. It's pretty much ready to start putting rigs in there. We just got to buy them now. And I figured maybe I can utilize the Koinos blockchain and the ecosystem to help integrate that in and see if anybody else would want a low cost entry into this mining opportunity. So my idea is really to create an NFT collection, and it's already in the process. Hopefully we can get that launched in the next couple of weeks. And there's going to be 3,000 units in the collection. They're going to probably be listed at 40 coin a piece, and all the NFT holders are going to get a share back of these mining revenues that we generate. As the company, the company's going to be called Real World Assets. We're going to have to own the equipment. We're going to have to own all the assets for legal and tax purposes, but we're going to, gift back up to 60% of these revenues that we bring in. And we want to utilize the community to, decide how we handle our portion of the share and how they want to receive their portion of the share. So maybe they do want to receive their coins as Caspa. Maybe they want it converted into a stable coin and then airdropped, or maybe they want a specific coin every month. We can rotate it. But I don't know what other people are thinking or what they want. So utilizing their opinions and utilizing this, as you mentioned, a DAO concept, we can facilitate and keep everybody happy and do it in a way that they want to stay involved and they want to help it grow as well. Because if it's just me making the decisions on, okay, I want to do this, people may not agree or might not support it. So they're not going to continue to, provide input or provide resources that are going to help the company expand. I've done tons of research. I've been doing a whole bunch of planning and brainstorming, and, mining continues to show up at the top of the list for what's most profitable, for fast, quick, easy returns. Now, anything that's that easy is always going to come with an inherent risk. So people have to be open-minded about that. Any given day, Caspa could lose 90% of its market value. Now, it's very unlikely that something like that's going to happen overnight, but it is a risk that is real when you're dealing with type of expenses and such like that.
Is it riskier than Dogecoin with a K?
I don't know. I don't know yet.
No, it's not. Nothing's more risky than a meme coin. Like, to me, when I hear about what you're doing, I'm like, there's something. I think
There's
that is what's most that's what's most exciting. It's like I'm not gonna buy a Casper rig ever, you know. Um, but if I can put some coin into an NFT collection that is basically backed by Casper mining, to me it sounds great. I'm not recommending it. It's not investment advice, but to me it sounds a lot better than, honestly, almost any option I've really even seen in the blockchain space. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah, I
mean,
don't I don't really think I everything seems so speculative, so um yeah, so entirely speculative. So
well, you know, con- conventional investors, they're trained to invest in real world assets, things that are tangible, things that they can hold or see, or they can watch the progress of that investment develop. With a cryptocurrency, it's hard to do that. There's a lot of speculation, like you said, but we want to integrate that real world asset idea into everything. We would love to take this even further after we have a little bit of capital and start building some houses to rent out, maybe build a development, even potentially put up some commercial type structures where we lease buildings out to like a company like a Verizon or somebody that's going to come in and pay us hefty amounts of money that we can continue to inject this capital back into the community, and ultimately integrate it entirely. Now, I would love to have these people be, paying their leases and then paying their rent and buying products using the Koinos blockchain. And then it just simplifies everything because they're not worried about credit card transaction fees from a vendor perspective or from a consumer perspective. You can offer better prices because we don't have to worry about, all the barriers that are in place, and the big financial sectors that they make these certain rules that we have to follow. When you enter into blockchain, we can pretty much make our own rules. Now, obviously, you have to follow the nation and the country's regulations, but you can break down a lot of those barriers and simplify things for people that might not be able to enter, or might not be fully aware of the opportunities until they're actually laid right in front of them. Um, I would really want to create that low entry barrier for people that they just don't understand it. Since I've been mining, everybody's like, they're all fascinated by it, and they're all like, "How do I do this?" And I'm like, "Well, you got to pay $1,200 a month, $1,300 a month in electric.
right.
You're gonna have some heat, some extra heat in your house, depending upon what you got going on there." Like, oh no, I don't want to deal with that. So there's a lot of things that steer people away, but it's a lot easier to, if you have a low entry and it's a low cost, it makes it a lot easier to let go of that small investment and still have a small piece of that pie. And if you wanted a bigger piece of the pie, you just buy a few extra NFTs rather than just a couple. So it can kind of taste everybody's appetite.
Yeah. Yeah, and you kind of touched on precisely why we went with proof of burn as a consensus algorithm, right? Because we wanted people to be able to run Koinos on whatever machines they had. Because it is too much of a barrier to entry. We were absolutely thinking about that. We're like, man, with Bitcoin, the original dream was like everybody would be running Bitcoin, and it just became pretty obvious pretty quickly that it was never going to happen. And so we really wanted to kind of revive that. But with Koinos, we're trying to solve very different problems, and actually we often reflect on how elegant the proof of work algorithm is, and it does have huge value. It's the simplest consensus algorithm possible. Well, sorry, not possible, in existence. It's actually like technically the simplest. So there's something very beautiful about that, and and hearing you talk about it, it really highlights why there's likely to always be value there, because it's like there's an industry of people who buy these things and who run them, and there's always this kind of, and they're starting to play this role in the grid. Anyway, lots of interesting stuff there. I think the part of what you said that has me that got me really excited is the idea that this isn't actually just about mining, that you have this 95 acres. And to me, I always had this dream of like a crypto campus, you know, and you know, and you see people doing some stuff like this, you know, trying to build cities and whatever. But you know, the idea of a Koinos campus, you know, a place where everybody could go, that is, you know, powered by Koinos. Now, the idea is to generate revenue. That's especially what I love about what you're doing, is that you're thinking very carefully about how is this going to generate revenue? How is this going to make money? You're starting from there, which I think in the past, I'm not talking about the Koinos community here, but in the past, I feel like in crypto, there's been this big bias in favor of, you know, what's the craziest idea we can come up with? And then we'll figure out the business model later. When what we should be doing is thinking about the business model now and then seeing how far we can push it. Mm-hmm. So am I right that you're thinking of, like, to me, it's almost sounding more like a co-op, right? Because it's like you've got this area, you've got this space, you want to use it, you want to use it to generate revenue, and you want to invite other people to participate in it. Forgive me if I kind of go all over the place here, but this just kind of dovetails with a lot of conversations that I've been having with, again, my friend Kui, behind Koinos Social, because it reminds me a lot of the kinds of use cases that I've been talking to him about, where it's like you want to build this DAO, right? And what you really want to do, what we're really trying to do with these assets, I think, is we're trying to enable people, we're trying to come up with really efficient mechanisms for people to influence the direction of things, of communities, right? So like you as the entrepreneur, you're like, look, I want to offer a product or a service that you like. But in order to do that, I need to know what you like. I need that feedback. And then how do I know? So I get a bunch of feedback from a bunch of different people. How do I know what's valuable or not? How do I know what's good? How do I know which people to prioritize or not? Well, what tokens do you hold? Which NFTs did you hold? You know, how many of the NFTs do you hold? If you hold 80 of my NFTs, why wouldn't I listen to you? And so
that's why.
Right. So there's another thing that I just kind of wanted to touch on, which is that well, I think that we should probably talk more about, I think one of the things that Koinos Group can do for you guys and that I can do for you guys is, as you explore your business model and your token design and all that stuff, we'd be happy to be involved in that conversation, just leveraging our expertise to create the best design that you can. That's kind of what we're here for, in a sense. Yes, we build Koinos Pro, an API endpoint for Koinos, but you know, as the inventors of Koinos, as you know, occupying the position that we do, we like to work with projects and help them figure out what the best way to go about their plans are. You know, like for example, when I think about what you're doing, and I'm curious to just get your feedback in the moment. So I had a bunch of ideas on your NFT design, because we haven't seen people leverage NFTs quite in the right way based on our kind of analysis, where it's like, okay, 1,500 unique images or something. You buy them and you get something else for them. And like I said before, to me, what you're really trying to do, you're actually not, it's not as much about profit sharing as people think. It's more about influence. And so take, for example, and first of all, there are challenges with profit sharing. Now, like I said, what you're really trying to do is allocate influence, and allocate it allocate influence and then measure it, right? So imagine that. So for example, I feel like what you're thinking is you buy an NFT, you get a certain percentage of the profits. And you lock yourself into a very specific kind of relationship that might not be what either of you really want. And I feel like this is why some initiatives can kind of deteriorate, because you thought that the relationship was going to look like this, circumstances changed, and now nobody's really happy. But what if what you get from the NFT is not a promise of profits, but a promise of influence over decision making? And so when you buy the NFT, and we'll have to talk about the NFT implementation, but imagine that you could just have an infinite supply of NFTs, right? And the more I snatch up, the more influence that I have, right? But that's it. Day one, that's it. That's all I have. Mm-hmm. Now you start generating revenue, right? And maybe we talk about what you're going to do with these funds, right? We're going to buy this, we're going to buy that. And then as you start to generate revenue, you start to effectively airdrop the revenue to token holders, mm-hmm. as you go, right? And you're like, so you didn't promise them profits, but you are leveraging your profits to provide them with a return. And now you want to diversify out of mining into, real estate. We want to build a co-working space. We want to build a space that could be rented out and used for events. Whatever, crazy thing, right? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right? Like, and it's up to you. It's up to you, the token holders. And so instead of, this is more appealing to me. This is where I feel like the opportunity is, but I don't really see anybody doing it this way, which is always a bit scary. But I feel like everybody is jumping to, you give me the money, I do something with it, and I give you a percentage of the returns. And I feel like what we should be doing is being like, you buy this, and this represents our
their
relationship.
Voice.
What's that?
Well, it represents their voice, basically.
Yes.
And we can hear their voice and what their opinion is, so that we can leverage that so that we know we're building things and we're working towards what people actually want versus just working towards whatever we feel is best. Because what we feel is best might not actually always be best. We want to do what people want us to do, and we have some resources to do it, and we want to leverage that, by utilizing the other people's opinions to get to, from point A to point B and be where the community wants us to be.
Yeah. I think it's I think it's, and maybe I'm using like simplistic terms here, but I think they work, right? Like what you guys really want to build is the RWA DAO, and what you want to sell are interests in the DAO. And then it's really about how do we design this DAO so as to, how do we design it properly? But that's just like implementation details. That's just the details. But, in thinking in really simplistic terms. And I think that like what everybody thinks they want is a guaranteed return. And yet how many rugs do they then fall prey to? And I think the reason why I like the approach that I outlined, right, is because there is a built-in lag. When you buy this that you don't get anything, and I have to earn your trust month after month by continuously doing things, whether it's buying a property and showing you what I'm doing, or I think like something akin to stock buybacks might be is an area worth exploring, where instead of distributing profits, right, you're leveraging profits to take tokens off the market. You know what I mean? Or buy back NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that we could talk about. But relationships are built over years, and successful organizations, valuable organizations that are doing important things, are built over the years. And so this idea that I'm gonna, somebody's gonna make a promise to me and something's gonna be on the blockchain and that's what's going, and so it's safe, right? Like that's a false sense of security, right? All this stuff is risky.
Mm-hmm.
What we're always really trying to do is how can we mitigate the risk? How can we leverage these tools to shrink the risk and broaden the opportunity landscape? So, does that crazy ideas?
Yeah, I think that does make good sense. I'm not opposed to at all buying back NFTs and then maybe even redistributing them again to relist. You mentioned before having an unlimited amount of NFTs. That's another possible creative idea, but I never even thought to do something like that. I thought maybe more of a finite supply. These are the people that are going to participate, but what does happen when Koinos reaches 100,000 users, and all these other users want to be part of something, but there's only such a small fraction available. Yet we want to hear the opinion from all these people that they do want to come involved. Like I know you guys have the Coin Fest out in Seattle, I think it is, right? Later in a couple months.
Yeah, somebody's throwing that. Yeah.
Imagine if we could do that, where our DAO is hosted on the land. That would be awesome. And then we have a central location as well for people that they feel comfortable, and it's just another meetup spot that maybe don't have to rent out because we already own it basically as a community. But there are so many different ways to leverage the resources and the NFT collections and the tokens. And you're not wrong that there really is never a guarantee, but utilizing the knowledge of other people, and I think knowledge is probably the most valuable resource that exists. You can't put a price tag on knowledge really, and experience as well. But we're starting somewhere, and we know where we want to try and work towards. And we've created the idea that's going to help us take those first few steps to get towards those actual goals that we have. And leveraging the mining is going to provide those opportunities to scale, and using other people's money can help us scale a lot quicker and expand a lot more rapidly. And where we do own this land, it's in a pretty secluded area. But I mean, if I were to drop a city name, you guys would be like, oh wow, that's 30 minutes away. It's right down the street from the beach, basically. But it's such like a small off the map place, and nobody even knows about it. I could basically buy up the entire city and become mayor if we got it to that point.
Whoa.
And then, I don't know if I want to be mayor. I don't know if I want to be mayor, but
no, but the idea of buying up a city, that's been my dream. That's been my dream for a long time now. It's like, we need a crypto city. Why not? Yeah.
And it is possible because it's all farmland right now. And I know that in the next 3 to 5 years, it is going to develop. It's just going to be who's going to do it. And if we can stay ahead of that curve, and we can kind of beat everybody else to it in a way, we run it then. And it's ours, which would be pretty incredible. But I mean, those are bold goals, but they aren't unrealistic when you do things the right way and you properly position yourself.
Well, what I love about what you're saying, we talked about this offline, that I'm thinking about calling the podcast After Capitalism. And to me, this highlights exactly why that might be the right name, because this is kind of the future this is what I'm thinking when I think of what comes after the system that we've had up until now. How can we be even better than what we have now? And to me, it's profit motivated, like capitalism, but it's also communal. It's also a group of people, potentially all over the world, working together, coming together, aggregating their capital so that they can participate in building something that they never would have been able to be a part of or build themselves. To me, that's exactly what I want to see after capitalism. Could you have done that? What's that?
And with a low barrier.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So it's been great chatting. You've given me a ton of ideas. I want to continue the conversation and have more conversations with you. And thanks for the conversation.
Hey, thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.